Hi, friends. Oh my gosh. So, this was one of those days where I am cutting it down to the wire, but I am still doing this. I am exhausted, but this was worth it. And for me, like, especially when I'm starting a habit, I can't be like, oh, okay, well, I was tired. Like, I need to have this consistency, even if this is 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Like, I'm sure you guys would appreciate me being concise. And I know I keep using that word, but as you can tell, it is not a powerhouse of mine. It's like these long, elaborate stories. And then I think back, I was like, I never even got to the point of that one. But, eventually all the points will come out some way, someday, somehow. Or whatever points are meant to come out will come out that day. So, where we live, they have been doing like this major construction on a freeway. And this weekend it was a 3-day weekend, woohoo. But they had a planned like freeway shutdown. And I have learned from experience when they first started doing these things, like you just don't want to leave our town because like we live at the intersection of two major freeways, and just it makes everything chaotic and hectic. Like you just can't get around. There is backups everywhere. It's just not worth it. So like I had mentally planned, like I knew this was happening like a month in advance. And so I was like, perfect. Like, my kids just went back to school on Wednesday. Well, one of the two kids went back to school. My other son, the one that had the ACL repair, has yet to go back to school in person. He's been doing home hospital school. It's a whole other beast. But he's still getting great grades. And, I don't know. He's the third kid, I guess. I call me a pushover. I don't know, like whatever it is. Like, I don't know. Not everybody. And it's not like he doesn't have friends, or it's not like he's not smart. He just, like, to his detriment, like, he had a brain tumor and then had to be home hospital schooled for 6 months, slowly transitioned back into school. And then he was in school for a little while, and then COVID hit, and he was out of school for a year and a half. Then he went back to school, and then he went that full year, right? Like that was his sophomore year. And then his junior year, he went as much as he could. There were so many, I think he had another surgery somewhere in there. And it was like once a week or once every other week, it was like, oh, like I have a headache, or, oh, I have this. And sometimes legitimately was those things. But for whatever reason, just he finds the school experience to be extremely inefficient, because he was like, I don't get it. Like, why am I sitting there for 8 hours a day when I did the home hospital school and we did virtual learning from the pandemic, like we only did an hour and a half or 2 hours worth of work, and then the rest was free. So he's like, we literally just sit around in class, and half the time we're on our own phones because like we get through the lessons, and then whatever, like we're done like with the learning for the day. So he gets his own thing. I don't know. I'm not an advocate of, I don't know what the right answer is. I mean, as long as he's getting his good grades, that's all I care about. And hopefully he's getting an education as well. And I only care about the grades because, again, this whole college loophole thing. So yeah, whatever. Anyways, and I know there's so many more lessons you learn than just the academia, like the socialization. But this year's really tough because when you have, and I was not very familiar. It was like I grew up with a dad and a brother, so there was constantly sports on. And I'm not saying that if I would have grown up with a female, it wouldn't also be sports. I totally get that that could have been the option. But my life at that point revolved around football and baseball and whatever sport that they were interested in, or they were playing, or was on the TV. And I had heard of like ACL, like I kind of vaguely knew was maybe with a knee. And until my son experienced this injury back in June, I really had no comprehension of the gravity of it and the toll. Like for me personally, it even took on, like, I'm his mom, like, but there was so much loss and heartbreak in this injury. Like, it was his senior year, and during his junior year, he was like named defender, like honorary mention of a defender of the whole, his whole league thing. And he was like reaching out and having good conversations with like D1 coaches, and coaches, like other coaches and stuff like that, to continue pursuing playing college soccer. And like he was like really dedicating time to his craft. It was like I always had said, I think I said this previously, like it's what you do in the shadows, it's what you do when nobody's watching, that pays like off like in dividends, like is like compound interest, and you're investing in yourself. And he was doing that. I mean, it would be like 105 degrees outside, and he would go out for 3-4 hours just practicing juggling. He'd go out, he'd have the cones by himself, he'd bring his little water. None of his siblings wanted to go with him, his friends weren't with him. He just was put his headphones in, and he'd go out and do it. And like he just had found this passion. And then he had, his birthday is unfortunate because there had been like this shift in the very early years of him playing soccer, and he was kind of ripped from playing soccer with like his grade peers. But then it was also a great opportunity for him to improve because he was always the youngest one on the team. But he has like some unique attributes about him. He was a left foot, and he is like a very, good, he was a great player, and he still is. He just, yeah, so basically he played well most of his life. And then last year, the majority of his teammates he's played with for the majority of his life have went on to graduate. And him and like one other player were kind of left. And that other player had already faced a few injuries himself that year. And so he wasn't playing on a like club team. And it kind of left Dylan in a lurch where he was like trying to find this home. And, it would be for last year. And he had been with his club like super loyal since he was like 4 years old. And all of my kids have been in it, because it's like, yeah, is it perfect? Absolutely not. But I always was like, the grass is always greener on the other side. Maybe there's better coaching, or maybe there's this or this or this, but this is in your backyard, and these are the kids you're going to play with in high school. And, is it worth it, the experience, like to go off and travel and not be your childhood? I don't know. To me, it just didn't seem like rational. It didn't seem worth it. It just was, and maybe in hindsight it would have been, but he ended up on this team that was like a team with kids that were like D1 players. It was like a academy team of like semi-pro players. And it was the funny thing is like sometimes we get these like feelings, or these like whispers, right? And it's like a lot of times we want to just dismiss it and not listen. And I'm never like somebody that's like, don't go to something. I'm always like, no, if you commit to something, you're going to finish it out. Like if you commit to soccer, it's a long season, but you're going to finish it out. You make a commitment to your team and everything. You don't have to sign up again, but you're going to finish it out. And so that's been with everything. And I've always been like, if there's a game, you're going. If there is a practice, you're going. Like, it's just not that, it's not for negotiation. Although I do let them negotiate with school. I know this makes no sense. Okay. I'm realizing this as I'm saying it out loud. But anyways, so here we were. It was a Friday. It was like the first hot, we had a very mild summer up until this point, and it was like really hot. It was a Friday afternoon. We would have to drive out to Davis, which meant we were going to be in traffic for 2+ hours. I was going to miss one of my classes. And he had, on that Monday, he was going out to play for Cal. And, so I just was like, he was like battling a hamstring injury. Like, it was being a little, just not, he had injured it. It wasn't like major, but it was irritating him. But he was so wanting to like get better, and he was loving this. Like he loved it. So even though like he had this opportunity to like compete, like playing like the soccer video game, like FIFA, now it's called like EA FC. I know, probably don't even know what I'm talking about, but anyways, it's a soccer video game. And so he had this opportunity to like compete in this tournament and like do some kind of a qualifier or something. And I was kind of like, you sure you want to go? Like, and he was like, yeah. And then I kept asking him, and I never do this. And I guess I asked him like 2 or 3 times. And then the third time he was like, do you not want me to go? Like, do you think I shouldn't go? And I'm like, no. Now I'm thinking, I'm just being greedy. Like, I just don't want to drive out there. It's hot. Like, I want to go to my dance class. Am I being selfish? Like, am I just thinking of myself and that's why I don't want him to go? Or is it because I have this kind of like naggy feeling in me that is like, don't go? So I ignore whatever's going on with me. And I'm like, no, you know what? You have to make this decision. If you want to go, go. Like, and he was like, because it was, like I said, it was a friendly, there wasn't going to be many players, weren't saying yes to go. And he was like, I want to go, but if I don't play or if I don't like start, like, I'll be annoyed or something like that. That was all he said. And, like, I don't want to like go all the way out there and just play for 10 minutes and then he was like, cause he was like new to this team. So, like just becoming a starter wasn't like, he knew he had to like fight for his position. And so he went out there and I started like walking around, getting in some steps and stuff like that. And then I came, maybe 5 minutes before the game started. And I've never, ever, ever, ever that I can remember like taped a practice. And for some reason, I like pulled out my camera and I started taping him warming up. And I was like really watching the warm up. Like usually I'm not. And I was taping him and he had like scored a goal. And, I was like, I just felt so proud of him. Now at this point we're there, we were joking around. There was some Ferrari we were kind of like driving with for 90% of the drive. And I would get in front of her a couple times. Like I said, I like to be the race car driver. And, it was a very beautiful Ferrari. And it was like, the license plate was Val's Fun. Like it had her name on the side. And I was just like, you go girl. Like was like cherry red. I was like, you go. I was super like, yeah, go for you, lady. But anyways, yeah. So by the time we were there, I was, glad to be there and be able to watch him. And it comes to the game time and he isn't starting and I feel sad. Like I feel so sad in my heart. I'm like, see, here he gave up this opportunity to qualify in this other thing in here. And like he said, if he doesn't start, he'd be kind of sad. So shortly into the game, he comes in and he's doing great. Like he was playing beautifully. His coach was like even making like compliments to him on the side of the field. And just in a series of unfortunate events, he ends up just taking a weird wonky step and he falls down. And I have it on tape. And then again, I shut it off. And, as the trainers and even the coach from the other teams come over, I realize this is serious. Like this is not just a normal injury. And he's had a few, like he's had seizures on the field. He's had, he completely dislocated and broke his elbow requiring surgery. So it's not like he is, he like played a few years with, multiple, fractures like in his leg. Like this kid loves it. Like shin splints, ripped calf muscles, you name it, ankles, wrists, broke thumbs, like just, and I think to myself, you must love it. Like if you're willing to endure so much pain and still want to go back, like you have a degree of passion and love for this that is not explicable. So he goes down and I remember texting Chris, like, this is not good. And I sent him the video, and Brad had looked at it and he's like, oh, maybe it's just dislocated or whatever. And so he couldn't walk. And I just remember like, I'm getting the car and I'm moving it towards closer. And, he walked onto that field, an intact young man. And here he was limping off and not able to put any pressure on his leg and holding on to his mama. And like, it just broke my heart, like looking over at him. And at this point, I had thought this knee injury would be like a 6-week recovery. This is what I thought. Because like most broken bones that my kids have experienced on the soccer fields, all of them have broken, those soccer players have broken bones, and playing soccer, my daughter's broken bones in cheer, and even like a flag football incident. But I had no idea in that moment just how long. And at 6 weeks, because he had just come to this team and he was working so hard, like the fathoming of 6 weeks was so much for me, that car ride home. So we end up going to home. It was a Friday afternoon. And, you know, I'm not taking you to the ER. I know the drill. We're just going to wait and we'll reach out to your doctor on Monday. Because, you know, like I said, they know us by name. I have my own seat reserved, parking spot, you name it. No, not really, but I should. They say that even. And so, you know, and other part of me is like, why do my kids, I watch a lot of games, why do my kids get hurt so much? Like, is something wrong with them? Like, what's going on? And I know the doctor is just like, they just play with their whole, and like a lot of it are just like unlucky fluke accidents. And the other half is like, they just play with so much heart and passion. Like they just give it 110, and like these things happen. So I remember going in on that Monday, and I was kind of like nervous all weekend. I barely slept. I was like replaying it in my head, like I shouldn't have gone, like I should have just said no, and you know, like we shouldn't go, and just I really also had wanted him to rest so he was like fresh on Monday, you know, like. And so here we were Monday, he was supposed to be at this Cal camp, and now we're at this, you know, orthopedist office, and you know, he's still limping. It's humongous, his knee, can't bend it. And, you know, we already had crutches because, you know, we've got multiple pairs here. You name the device, we were ready to go. And she does an x-ray, and she's like, I'm not liking what I see here. I can't really see, and there's so much swelling I can't feel. So we're going to order him like an urgent MRI. And we end up doing the MRI, or, you know, like I end up having like obsessively calling, because that's what I do. I've been in this medical game a long time. I've, you know, when you've been through, you know, supporting somebody with cancer, supporting somebody with a brain tumor, supporting somebody with heart surgery, supporting somebody with life-threatening allergies, supporting somebody with mental health, supporting somebody with GI issues, like supporting someone who's had a heart attack, supporting someone who's had a stroke. Like, I know how to advocate, and I know if I don't advocate, it's the squeaky wheels that get the oil. Yeah, on the other end is the person may start get annoyed with me, and I don't care. Like, I usually am so nice about it, like, please, and you know, like very courteous. Like, I am annoying, but at least I'm a nice annoying, okay? And then they're just relieved to get rid of me at the end of the day. And you know, sometimes they're just like, no, I get it, like this is your kid, you know, like, or this is your loved one, like this is what you're supposed to do. And you know, we can't magically make the space open for you, because you know, we only have one MRI machine and we've got thousands of patients that need it. But you know, so yeah, anyways, I obsessively keep calling. Finally we get the approval, we get everything in. He gets rushed in because she was like, we will squeeze him in. They end up rushing him in on a Monday, on the Friday. So it's been 1 week to date since the injury. And he does the MRI, and what the abnormalities that came back in the x-ray. And this is why I was also like, of course I went onto Google. Like, this is what I do, you know, like if something's on the x-ray and it's abnormal, there are these big words I'm not aware of. Google, copy, paste, and it's just, everything came back. ACL, ruptured ACL rupture, ACL sprain. And I was like, maybe it's just this one. And so just in my gut, like when I first read it, I was like, damn it. No. And I was just devastated. I was like already beginning to mourn once I then realized the gravity of this 1 second injury. And in a maneuver he's done thousands of times. So I end up, we get him that MRI on Friday. I call the doctor's office and say, we have the MRI on Friday. We'll bring the disc. And they're like, okay, come in on Monday. happens to be my anniversary. I didn't care. Like, we don't do anything anyways. But it's just memorable in my mind. And we went in, and this doctor has seen us a long time. She's an athlete herself. She's a mother of athletes. Her husband was a college coach for I believe an Ivy League. I think it's an Ivy League school, but a very good school. So she is and this is her, she's an orthopedist. So she's no stranger to injuries. She's no stranger to us either. She's, pretty phenomenal. She always wants to get the kids back on the field where they want to be, or court, or whatever it is, back in playing. And she gets the images, and she just is like, I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Like, I'm just going to be frank. Can I just be frank? And you can see, she's choked up. You can see tears in her eyes, and she's not a crier, she's just and when she said that, it was I flew out of the seat that looked at Dylan, and I've never ever done that. And I just sat next to him, and she's and I've never done that in this office. It was just I knew, I don't know if I needed him or he needed me, but I just knew I needed to do that in that moment. And she was like, you tore your ACL. It's it's gone. It's completely obliterated. There is nothing left. And you're gonna, if you want to play soccer, or sports, maybe go skiing or golf or whatever, you're gonna need surgery. And you're gonna be out for a year. And this is his senior year. He had already his adversity. He had already had lost a year. He had already went through brain surgery. He had already, he had enough. And so and he dealt with all those things so strong. Stronger than I could. I try, I remember it wasn't even a negotiation. I remember when he had the tumor, I would just say, everything's gonna be okay. And I remember he would go to sleep, and I would be usually I'm oh, hey God, can you please pray for, super nice. And I was just listen, you need to make sure he's okay, because I told him he was gonna be okay, and he just needs to be okay. And so anyways, I'm sorry, I don't like to cry, but so anyways, it just was so hard. It was just so hard to think how hard he had been talking to these coaches, and how much he had wanted this experience, and by no fault of his own and by no choice of his own, his next 365 days were going to look very different. And not even it's just cruelty upon cruelty, because it's he was told he couldn't even touch a soccer ball. You can't even touch a soccer ball for months. And I can't imagine whatever it is that I do that is my stress relief, is my how, I don't know, I don't have a ton of friends I confide into anymore, right now. And that's mostly by choice, just because I'm such an empathetic person. I take on so much that I give up myself, and I'm not in a position yet. I have lots of casual friends, but it's I just remember when I was younger, if I was stressed out, I'd pick up the phone and I'd call my friends, or, whatever it was. And so it's if that was his stress relief. Now I do walk or yoga or I do other things, drive to the beach. I know I take care of those things, but if you just take it away, and, even at one point he had looked over, he goes, Mom, even I'd almost rather brain surgery, because after the brain surgery, I was able to go back and at least practice with my friends, non-contact, after 6 weeks. And in it took 6 weeks for him to do pre-rehab just to have the surgery. And then the clock started for him. And so, it's just been so difficult. And like, you missed out on the whole club experience this year, and players that you see that he was better than, that now have taken he was the starter, but now are like have replaced him, like go on to be in these all-star games and go on and are like going and talking to colleges, like, and basically all he has is like, he gets like, there's other avenues, there's other things you can pursue, or take a gap year, or do this. And it's like, and I do know this, like nothing has ever happened and then it not been for the best in the end. But it doesn't mean that like in this process it doesn't suck. Like every day that kid, and he's such a nice kid too, like every day he's in pain. Like he's sick right now with the flu, which he hasn't been sick since May. And of course it's time to go back to school. I was like, I swear you made yourself sick because you don't want to go. But obviously he didn't. But I mean, maybe, I don't know. Like, I don't know, was he just digging, like somebody with the flu, like, please come here? Like, but anyways, he, yeah, so he's just such a nice kid. Like, I don't even know what I was saying. Like, I got distracted by that. But yeah, he missed that. And then I think the second hardest part is like, he doesn't get to play in his high school. And like, like I said, he would have been captain of his team, or, he would have, like all these things that just didn't happen. And I know in this game of life, like, it's a soccer game. It's not, like, it's not the end of the world, but it is the end of a world. Like, it is an end of an era. The last time I ever saw my oldest son play soccer, even though he continued to play soccer all throughout college, was his final high school game. Like, so, like, it's just like, it was an end of an era, and it was like already like filled with some really high highs. Like, he was on some of the best teams, and, they won championships, and, he was a national champion for like futsal, which was this like, ended up for a while being this like offspring, like really fun experience. But then the whole birthday thing happened, and he wasn't going to be able to play with his friends anymore. And so he kind of weaned out of it. But yeah, he's had this kind of like really super high highs experiences with the game, and super low lows, and he's always come out like with such great attitude. Like, I know 1000%, like, I've cried more about his injury than he has, and he has every reason to cry, to cry about it. Like, I really had like some serious PTSD, and I think it was just like a heartbreak, and I would wake up in the middle of the night, like, like, I was like, what is this? I would talk to my therapist, and I'd be like, what is going on? Like, and she's like, you just have to give it time. Like, you're experiencing grief. I'm like, but this didn't even happen to me, like, but it was just such a loss. And he has definitely turned this adversity. I know I need to get some tissue, but he has turned this adversity around. Like, he was able to like really dive into the video game, which I'm not a big game fan at all, but like, he was able to like really dive into it and put a lot of that energy into that. So it was like, definitely, like, you could see, like, as one door closed for a while, and maybe it's just closed for a year, like another one opened for him. And like, there was a few days he was literally ranked #1 in the entire North America, and he's just an amateur player. Like, he's not like, these are pros he's playing against. And so that was a couple days, and then I think he's at like, he was ranked at like #7, 16. Like, I'm like, that's pretty amazing, like, to come from that. Like, he doesn't have like the advantage of like a pro club supporting him and giving him money to help get better players. I don't know all the details, but like, I know enough to know this. And like, him and I, like, he, as soon as like he got the go ahead to start walking, which was like fairly soon, like, it was just like, okay, we're going, it was the same thing like this. Like, we are going to do this every day. Like, we are going to do this. And some days it may be we're walking to the end of the driveway, and on some days it may be we walk around the whole neighborhood, and some days it may be we walk around the whole city. But you're gonna get up and you're gonna go. As of late, it's been like the holidays and crazy and cold, and so I've been a little bit slacky on it. But he's like even right now with the flu, he's like, I'm ready to go for a walk in 20 or 40 minutes. I'm like, it is pouring out, it is cold, you are still sick, like no, like. But we've had the most amazing conversations. Like, he is so freaking funny, and like he just has a great head on him. He like asks these questions, and like how lucky am I? Like, how many 17 now 18-year-olds are like, "Hey mom, can we go on a nightly walk?" Like, nobody. And he even says, like, he has continually been like ahead of schedule, which I say it just means that you come back stronger, not sooner, because I understand. I've read so much now. I am pretty much a ACL expert. And I understand that, like, you just can't rush biology. Like, they took a piece of his quad and a piece of his IT band and they created an ACL, which is never going to be an actual real ACL, but it's just going to, what was, because his real ACL was so blown up, it's gone. It's in the garbage can or in some lab or something like that. So he is like just such a good kid. I really hope all of his dreams and things come true for him. I hope that this was his last little adversity test, and the rest of his life will be smooth sailing. Because he definitely deserves that. But yeah, I mean, he even says, I was gonna say, like, he continually tests, like, all of his tests and stuff, he come back like he's doing remarkably well, and he'll say sometimes, like, I bet it's all this walking. And like, I make sure we do some hills to like give them like quad strength, because I was reading on there that people like really suffer with gaining their quad. So it was like, I was very strategic about where we were walking, and like, he didn't know. He was just thinking, well, I'm walking with mom, or I'm going here, or whatever. Like, well, we would be like, which way are we going today? And we've been through hot nights and seen beautiful sunsets, and we've seen the Starlink satellites take off a couple times. I mean, we've seen small moons and big moons and weird constellations, and like, yeah, we went through the Halloween lights, and then the Diwali lights, and then the Christmas lights, and now it's going to be back to dark, and then soon it'll be light again. And just like his injury, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I am so proud of how he has mentally stayed with it. And from the beginning, I'm like, if you ever want to talk to somebody, like, there are sports psychologists, there are these things, which, by the way, they are not enough. Like, this particular injury has taught me that, like, I don't know if it's this same thing universally or whatever, in my area, in maybe Western medicine, I don't know where the line is drawn. I feel like here, like, we are so blessed. Like, he has Stanford doctors. He's having surgeries at Stanford. Like, he has the creme de la creme of doctors. We're not in some middle of nowhere, and you have to travel. I mean, yeah, a little bit of traveling, but I mean, within reason. It's a car ride, whatever. And I feel like they do a phenomenal job on the physical. But I feel like the problem with our modern, and this even true, I can even say, with his brain, and any of the kids, if I like think back on any of their injuries or ailments, is they do a really, really good job on the physical. And I believe that, like, healing is holistic. It is the whole thing. There is a mental aspect to it. There is a physical aspect. There is an emotional aspect. There's a spiritual aspect. And there's like, even like this, like, the last thing is, like, you just want to have this dream. You have this goal to get back to who you were, or to even be better than where you were. And it's just like, okay, let's fix this and this and this. And, one of the things I was disturbing was like the amount of people that either re-tear their ACL or then go back and start playing and tear the other one. And I was like, oh no, this one round is enough. This was extremely painful. As you can see, here we are 6 months later. I will still bust out in tears. I thought I was all cried out from this. It's been a while, but apparently it is still so fresh. it is still so heartbreaking to this little mama bear over here that it brings me to tears just thinking about his experience and reliving it. So, like I was like reading about that, and it was like this one thing I had read, and he was like a sports psychologist, and but he was like in like another country or another city, I don't remember. And he was like, he could go out and watch players and be like, oh, that one's gonna re-tear, oh, this one's this, because you could tell they play different, they play with a different it's like a apprehension or whatever. So you're putting your body in different mechanics than it should be that are basically unsafe, even, and they don't even realize it. It's completely psychological. And so like that's why I was like, especially in the beginning, like advocating, you sure do you want to go? And then even when I had brought it up to his pediatrician, his orthopedist, the orthopedic surgeon, the PT, they were like, maybe this person, like there were literally no resources. And then I ended up, of course, because I'm like, I don't take no for an answer, I then was like looking, and Stanford had something, but it was only if you were an athlete in their program. So like if he would go to Stanford, if he would get accepted there, I know where he could go. But it was like, wow. So I was like, okay, if I ever wanted to go into that avenue, like I totally would. And I feel like it's just such like an overlooked thing. Like, I don't know. Yeah. So anyways, like anybody shout out, like if you're a therapist and you love sports and you love kids sing, like there is definitely a market in the Bay Area, because there were not a heck of a lot of options for him to do that. And to have this like niche kind of like specialized thing in like student athletes, like I thought would be pretty cool, like I'm sure adult athletes that need it as well, but like, yeah. So anyways, that's that little thing. But yeah, so anyways, consistency. So that's why I'm here, and it's probably the next day. Yep, it is 12:30. So now, does this count? No, it won't, because I just am like that. So I'll still be back later today. But yeah, just being consistent here, and I think we'll see where this evolves and it goes. But I'm having fun, and I appreciate the little therapy sesh. I'm apologizing for my tears. And I'll try not to make that happen, but I'm going to be very vulnerable on here. I'm going to be very honest, because like I'm at the point in my life where I'm trying to shed all of those worries. Like, and I keep telling myself, and I told my daughter this today, because she's about to graduate college, and that's a very scary time, right? Like it in many ways, especially when it's somebody who I've always been a person to encourage, find your path, like find what you want, like have experiences. Like you don't have to go into this particular profession or do this particular thing, or it's not about the money. Like I'm like, explore, take risks. Like there is no better time in your life, as far as I can see at this moment, for you to take risks. You have no mortgage, you have no rent, you have no car payment, you have no children, no husband. Take the most risks now. You ever want to start a business? Start it. You ever wanted to become a blogger? Start it. You ever wanted to start a crafting business? Start it. Like, what is the risk, right? Like, what is the downfall? If you're 47 years old and you want to take these kind of risks, it gets a little scary, because you still have rent and bills and kids that depend on you, and a spouse, like you have all these other things that they don't just disappear because you're like, hold on, midlife crisis time here, and I'm starting over, guys. So can you just put all my bills on hold? Once I get it together, I will pay you back. I promise, with interest even. Okay. No, it's hard. So like I tell her that, but she gets really caught up on what people think still. And believe me, it's only been the last, not very long, that I have realized, and I didn't for a long time. And my therapist just kept telling me, like, you care too much what people think. And I would be like, I don't care. I'm walking around 300 pounds. I clearly don't care what people think of me, like all this stuff. But one day it all made sense. And the people I cared about what they thought about me wasn't necessarily strangers, albeit they did. Like it would hurt me to think that this person didn't like me or was judging me or, whatever it was. Usually people typically, I encounter most people because I'm nice. I smile. I'm, inquisitive. I ask questions. I compliment them. So there's no reason to really not like me. Like I could get on your nerves because I have high energy, and that's okay. Like, but most people, I encounter, if I do, not saying that there aren't people that like, I'm like, no, we're not friends. Like, and maybe think that about me. I really don't care anymore. But like, I really cared so much about what my kids thought of me and what my spouse, my family, all these people that like, I was afraid to be me because I was afraid to upset them. I was afraid to rock their boat. I was afraid to do these things. So now I realized I never got to finish this part. So in 2020, I had got to a place where I was so low. I had completely depleted every piece of me. It was unrecognizable. I would look in the mirror. I didn't look like me, how I felt on the inside. The inner child in me was so buried, like just buried alive in there. And I remembered recently when I was a little girl, I lived in Oregon for like 9 months, and I had a room and I had a closet, and most rooms have closets. Yes, I got it. Nothing special there. But I remember I used to barricade myself. I would barricade the door, and then I would hide in the closet and barricade myself in the closet, and I would just hide, and I would just like almost hold my breath and just not want to be seen. And like the way I describe my inner child for a while has been like, she has been in that closet. Like I've left her in that closet since I was in Oregon. She just hid away. It was like she was afraid to be who she was. And I don't know what made her afraid. I don't know like if there was an instance. I know I had a very fearful upbringing. It was very unstable. I mean, I have teen parents who did the best they could with the tools they had at the time. If they were to reparent me now, or if have the experience at their age and with their wisdom now, it'd be a completely different story. And I'm sympathetic to that, but it doesn't negate the fact that it still had these lasting repercussions on who I was. And I'm not even mad about it because like I really like who I am now, like now 47 years later. And I feel like I started at 45, and it's been a slow, just like this, it's been a slow daily process progression. And so now I get to the point where I'm like, I don't care. And like I was telling my daughter, the whole point of that was saying was, so what if you said you were going to go to med school and then you took it back, and then you said you wanted to go again a few years later, and then you were going to keep it to yourself because you didn't want the judgment or the pressure or, whatever expectations from somebody else. And now you don't feel like you can take it back again. And I'm like, that is life. I am not the same person I was yesterday. And tomorrow I'm not going to be the same either. And I said, we have never put that pressure on you. Any pressures on yourself. Like those, like I always said this to her because it was like, I've heard it someplace else. And I'm like, it's so true though. Like those that matter do not mind, and those that mind do not matter. Like what she does with her life is nobody's business but her own. And if she's happy, that's what matters. I mean, the reason we brought this up is she's like, my two middle children are very much like, she is a very intelligent young lady. She loves learning, but she hates going to school. And so I'm like, I'm trying to understand. I'm like, I just ask these questions, not because I want to sway you one way, is I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to put this piece to puzzle. And you're saying to me, in all your actions, you have one final semester of school, plus you have a couple classes you want to take over the summer. Okay, great. So you have a semester and a half. And you're telling me you don't like going to physical school, but you don't learn well virtually. And then now you're saying you want to do a post-bac program and then go to med school and then, specialty. So I'm like, you're signing up for like, what is it, 6 to 8 more years of school? Like, and I'm like, I don't understand it. If this is, like, just because you want to do this, like, will you be able to do this? Like, are you willing to make that sacrifice and understand that, like, it's going to be hard. You're going to have to make choices, your relationships and things like that. And that's okay. Because if you love something, like, I could sit here for 18 hours a day and talk to you guys, because I love this. I love sharing stories. I love, like, if there's something that I say that like just resonates with somebody and they're like, oh, like, because I love listening to that stuff. So, like, beyond me talking, I could spend the other, 6 hours, or vice versa, 18 hours learning about, like, how to be a better person, how to be, like, I dig it. Like, that is not work. This is fun for me. Like, this, just like when I go dance, it's not a workout. Like, this is fun. This is my turn up. I'm at the club. Like, I'm letting loose. I'm not caring. Like, if I'm too much energy, step away. If I offend you with my moves, don't look. Like, I'm just over here having a good time. I don't care. And, like, continuously people are come up to me and like, love your energy, want to dance near you, you inspire me. Do you know how many people in the class you inspire? Like, no, I don't. I'm just out there having a good time. And the fact that I motivate somebody, well, that just, that tickles me. Like, I'm like, this lady, I mean, literally, there were 3 different people over the course of the last 2 times I was at the gym that were just so complimentary of seeing my journey. And, like, I don't even watch the instructor anymore, who is amazing, that I can't take my eyes off of, because he's so absolutely amazing. I'm like, he must be like that level that's too hard, and then I'm in that next one, maybe, he's at the extreme level and I'm at the not so extreme level. And so maybe but she's like, yeah, I just watch you. I'm like, that's so weird. Like, I don't, like, I if you're watching me from the back, doesn't mind me. I don't care. But if I was to, like, stand on a stage and you were watching me, I'd probably freak out. I would be, like, overthinking everything. I'd be like, I got to get this right. Somebody's depending on me. But if I don't think anybody's depending on me, it's like, okay, I went left hand. It should have been the right, whatever. Anyways. But, like, yeah, so I could do this for 18 hours. So, like, if you love medicine, you're going to go to do 18-hour work, and it's not going to feel like work. You're going to be exhausted and tired, but you're going to freaking love it every minute of that 18 hours. So it's not work, even though it is work. But, yeah, so anyways, like, yeah, so, it's that tricky time. You graduate, and now what, right? Like, you've known school, like, that's all you know. For her, she had this, really deep desire to go into medicine. She did a camp at Stanford over the summer, lived there, great experience, took anatomy classes in Stanford, got an A, like, she did biomedical all throughout her high school career. She was very, she's very empathetic. She wants to, like, revolutionize the world, and so she just loved the, caring for people. And so I think she would make a phenomenal doctor. It's just, she has to be willing to put in that time with anything we want to do. And so, I'm always like, just like the person that's going to ask these questions, because I'd rather, I'm like, just think about your worst case scenario. So worst case scenario, you go through all this and you don't get accepted to, and I'm like, but there's always the best case scenario. But, like, and I'm always looking for the bright side, but I'm like, would you be okay with going through 8 years of school and maybe not going to a school like, would that still be okay? What is the, the thing? And then I ask questions like, okay, let's say you were totally comfortable. I'm not saying you're jet setting and you don't have that much money, but you're comfortable. All your needs are met. You have your own apartment, you have a car, you don't have to go out and get a job. What would you do with your time? What would you do? What would be the thing that you would do? I would be doing crafting. I would be doing this. I'm like, well, there are your answers. Like, they're there. You just have to listen to them. And then it's like, and I am so guilty. We just talked about this a couple days ago, right? Like, she was like, I'd love to start a blog. I'd love to do that. I'm like, well, start. And then she was like, but I don't have the like perfect aesthetic, and I want it to look a certain way, and I want it to do this. I'm like, yeah, me too. Like, I thought, okay, if you're going to do this and you're going to go on camera and talk to people, you're going to need to do your hair every day. You're going to need to put on makeup. You're going to need to like wear better clothes. You're going to need to do, and I'm like, no, I'm just going to do it. And if somebody, one person, no people, whatever, somebody listens, somebody doesn't, great. If somebody does, even better. Like, I'm just doing what I love, and I'm not putting all these rules and conditions. And maybe there will come a time where I'm like, okay, I need better lighting, or I need, this or whatever. And you evolve into this, or I actually have like a plan on what I'm going to talk about and not just, go off the fly of my brain here. But like, yeah, so I don't know what'll happen with her, but I wish her all the best. And I love that she feels safe enough to have these conversations and like talk it out. And I know like she went in it thinking, okay, I got to do these, applications for these post-bac programs. And I'm like, you still can like leave that on the table. And then take the next few months and decide. There's no like hurry, and you can always go back to medicine. It's not like it will become more challenging if you have kids and things like that, or whatever the situation is. But no door is ever fully closed. So I say all that to say, good luck to her. I appreciate that she trusts me enough to at least hear my advice and suggestions. And most importantly, I just tell her it doesn't matter what you do, who you are, where you go in life. You are loved, and we support you no matter what. And my daughter was a cheerleader, and so if in cheer there are positions like when you're doing stunting, and there's the flyer, and so she's the the one, she or he is the one that's in the air and doing all the tricks and things like that. And then there's the bases, and they're kind of in the front to the side. And then there's the back spot in the back, like that's there to kind of like catch and hold and things like that. And so, I just made this analogy. I don't know what it's called. I think it's called an analogy. And I just said, all we care about is that you're happy and you soar. Like, you are so intelligent. We are so proud of you. Like, I love that you're even questioning this and not waiting until you're 45 years old or in a career that you don't want to be or whatever it is. I was like, so now it's your turn to do the flyer. And it's scary and you don't like it maybe, but you just go out there and soar, and know that if you happen to fall, which I don't believe you will, no matter what you do, you have your bases and your back spot there, which is your family. We're all here to catch you. And it's true. So go out there and give it your shot. Don't worry about what other people say. Like, I'm going to sit here and do this and try to not like I'm really going to work on that. And I really hope I have built up a thick enough skin. You don't have to test me on it. Okay. Like, take my word for it. Don't try to say mean things to me or about me. And then, be like, oh, let's see if she can take it. Like, let's not do that. Like, I've been through enough in my life. I don't need anybody else to hurt me. But like, you don't like me, just don't tune in. That's okay. There's a gazillion other people to watch. There's a gazillion other things you could do. And yeah, like, let's spread kindness. And like, if there's something I say you don't like, kindly bring it to me. Like, I'd love to have a conversation. I'd love to be educated and learn like how to be better, and take your advice and feedback and see if it works with my life or works with my beliefs, or I'm totally an open-minded person, and I'm willing to like make adjustments. But yeah, I'm not willing to tolerate any kind of bullying, and I'm not going to sit here and be who you guys think I should be. I'm just going to be me, which is like honest and vulnerable. So I'm not going to ever have to like question what I say or be like, because it's all the truth. And I think that people will relate to the truth and will relate to the fact that like, there isn't anything special about me. There's no special degree or special anything. It's just kind of how I've looked at and how I've taught my kids to look at. And all the different weird situations that life brings our way. So I'm going to end there because I am so tired from this crazy long day, which I got so much accomplished. I'm so excited. So I know I'll get more into that tomorrow. Otherwise I could get going if I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I wanted to talk about this. So it'll be another hour here. But I thank you so much for listening and following me on this journey. And yeah, please like reach out to me. I don't know if you like message or whatever. I have to like figure this part out and start actually posting them. But yeah, like that's level 2. We're getting there. Okay. One step at a time. Keep on filming. That's my job for right now. So thank you guys. Love you. Bye.